After having understood the basic meaning of organizing function and the different steps which are to be performed, right, for the function of organizing. Now coming to the next topic, that is organizational structure, right. In the previous topic we were talking a lot about what are the authority responsibility relationships, right, defining the authority responsibility relationships. Now by doing so, by clearly assigning duties and establishing the authority and responsibility relationships, we are designing the organizational structure. Organizational structure is nothing else but it is a framework within which all the managerial tasks are to be performed, right. Now when we talk of an organization structure, like if I talk about your school, okay, in a school we first have a managing committee, then we have a principal, then we have vice principal, right, we have different HMs, and then we have teachers. This is an organization structure, right. This is an organization structure which is followed in your school, right. Now who's going to report to whom is very clear over here, right. और कौन किसको order देने वाला है, that is also very clear. The broad policy making is always done by the managing committee, right. The basic objectives for a particular school are always discussed in the managing committee, right. Who, depending upon the objective, who prepares the plans for the schools, that's the principal, right. Then principal is going to further delegate some authority to the vice principal to put these to give a practical shape to these plans, right, and so on and so forth. So this is a basic this is a structure within which all the activities of the schools are going to be performed. All the tasks are relating to the school activities are going to be performed. Now there are only two types of the organizational structures that we are going to be discussing over here, that is functional structure and divisional structure. When we talk about functional structure, it means grouping the activities of similar nature, grouping the activities belonging to a particular function, right, grouping the similar activities belonging to a particular function. When we talk about function, it means production, sales, finance, research and development, human resource management, right. Grouping all the activities related to a particular function and taking that particular function as a separate department, right, this is called as your functional structure. This means there is a production department, there is a marketing department, there is a sales department, research and development department and finance department. All of these functions, they work as a separate department with their own departmental objectives to pursue, right. Now this is an ideal form of structure to be followed when the scale at which an organization is operating is medium or small. When they have only one product, right, when they have only one product which they are selling, for which they are performing these functions, that is production, marketing, sales, finance and research and development, then each of these functions can be organized as a separate department, right. Now there are certain advantages of a functional structure as well as certain disadvantages. Now when we talk about the advantages, first and foremost advantage is functional specialization. As I told you that these 5 different functions are now going to operate as different units, different departments with their own departmental objectives. Now when this particular department is only going to be performing, activities related to production, right, तो उन्हीं activities को बार-बार करने पे they are going to expedite, they are going to become experts in performing that particular activity. As a result, the activities under any particular department are going to be performed in the most effective and efficient manner. They are going to specialize in doing that particular job. So it leads to, it gives you the benefit of advantage of functional specialization, right. Each of the department is going to specialize in performing their respective function. Secondly, increased managerial efficiency. Now, how is it going to increase the managerial efficiency? When we defined the word efficiency, we said that when we are able to complete the task at the minimum possible cost. Now, efficiency is going to be increased because when we said that it leads to functional specialization, meaning you specialize in performing a particular function, right? When you specialize in performing that particular function, there are going to be least possible wastages. There are going to be least possible wastages in performing that particular function. So, you are going to be minimizing the cost involved. You are going to be minimizing the cost involved in performing that particular function, right? You have experience, people are going to gain experience and expertise in performing that particular function, so thereby increasing their efficiency in performing that function. Then each function gets due attention, right? Now, as each of the function is organized as a separate department, right? They have their each function is going to have their own departmental objectives which are to be achieved. Okay? Each function is going to have their own departmental policies which are to be followed, right? So there is not even a single function which is being ignored. There is not even a single function which is being ignored, and all of these functions, they get their due importance. Training is simplified. How is training simplified? Because अगर production department में employees की training है, तो you only have to train them in one aspect, that is production, right? Different department, if you have training for, let's say, sales department, so you have to train them only in that aspect, right? No single employee is to be trained for all 5 functions. It is going to be either for production or for marketing or for sales or for finance or R&D. So your training gets really simplified. But there are, like we have advantages, at the same time there are certain disadvantages, okay, which exist for your functional structure of organization. That is, emphasis is more on departmental objectives. Inter-department rivalry हो जाती है, wherein each department wants to prove that we are performing better than the other department. We are doing our duty more effectively and efficiently as compared to the other department. Now, as a result, each of the department, right, is going to focus more on the departmental objectives rather than the overall organizational objectives. You lose that view. Okay, we always say that you need to have a horse's eye view on organizational objective, meaning आपको इधर उधर कहीं नहीं देखना. Your eyes have to be fixed on the organizational objectives, right? Because that is my final goal. But here somewhere there's always an emphasis is laid more on the departmental objectives. Second, conflict of interest. Now there can be, it's quite possible, like if the sales department, they say that in order to increase our sales, it's important, you know, that we give a discount at the rate of 10% on each product. On MRP हमें 10% का discount देंगे तो हमारी sales जो है वो 30% से बढ़ जाएगी, right? But the finance department is not in agreement with the sales department. It says no, we cannot afford to give a discount of 10% because that would mean a loss to the organization. At the max 4% or 5%, right? तो इन दोनों में अब conflict आ गया, right? So many a times this kind of conflict of interest exists between the two departments, which gets difficult to address. Then difficult to fix responsibility for performance. Now if a product once launched in the market is not able to do well, is not doing well, right, the performance of the product in the market is not that great, so it becomes very difficult to fix कि भाई गलती किसकी थी. Was the production department at fault? Was the sales department at fault? या R&D में कुछ हमारी कमी रह गई थी, या finance factor हमने सही से discuss नहीं किया था, or maybe we don't have the right person at the right post to be performing the duty. So it becomes very difficult to fix the response कि किसकी गलती थी, किसकी वजह से product जो है अच्छा result नहीं दे पा रहा है in the market. Then managerial development is difficult. Why is the managerial development difficult? When we talk about managerial development, right, a manager should have the knowledge for all functions which are being performed, right? But in this case, although we have departmental heads, right, we have someone heading the production department, we have someone heading the marketing department, we have someone heading the sales department, we have someone heading the research and development department, we have someone heading the finance department. But these people are only being trained in their respective function, right? None of the heads of each of the department has an exposure to all these 5 functions. So as a result, they are not being trained for higher positions in the top level of management. So it restricts their scope of growth and development. Now coming to the second form of organizational structure, that is divisional organization structure. Now divisional organization structure is basically applicable to the large scale organization which have more than one product line to continue, right? I have taken over here that let's say there are 3 products that a particular organization is selling, that is product A, product B and product C. So these 3 products will be organized as 3 separate departments, right? They are going to operate as 3 separate departments. These 3 departments will operate as autonomous units. Autonomous meaning independent. They are independent of one another. इनका आपस में एक दूसरे से कुछ लेना देना नहीं है. Separate independent departments की तरह ये operate करेंगे और हर एक department में ये पांचों के पांचों functions perform किए जाएंगे. That is production, finance, sales, research and development and marketing. All these 5 functions are going to be performed under each of the product line. Right now, this is there are certain advantages that we are going to discuss over here. Like in functional structure, we had an advantage of functional specialization, right? Wherein people specialize in performing a particular function. Here we have product specialization, right? Like if a company is manufacturing your cars also, motorbikes also, right, and let's say bicycles also, ठीक है? तो although है तो सभी कुछ ये automobiles में ही आएगा, right? But these are 3 different products that an organization is manufacturing. They will operate as 3 autonomous units, right? Now because product A, this department for product A is only focusing on A product, right? So by